and emotions. So, I just want to put out there as a disclaimer, like anybody that has a diagnosis which requires medication, I just want to let you know that you are not lesser than, that you are not weak. I think you're a survivor and you're courageous, and thank you for being here with us. And we need you, and this planet needs you, and I understand. And I'm here and I see you and I love you. And I just wanted to put that out there because when we talk about the feelings, when we talk about emotions, we talk about anything with kind of a psychology attached to it. And that we live in more what they would define as developed societies. And however, like, we have all this technology, we have all this abundance of resources, and we have all these things within, I live in the United States, so we have all these things, and there's this, like, idea of what people think the American lifestyle is like, and we're all supposed to have this money, and we're just, like, driving all these nice vehicles, and for some people that is true. However, there is an epidemic in this country. There's an epidemic of mental illness. There's an epidemic of drug addiction and alcoholism and things of that nature. So obviously we really don't have things all figured out on the deepest levels, on the surface and maybe on the material level. Yeah, there may have been some mastery, on that level of accomplishment, but on the levels that really where it means something, on the deepest levels, it doesn't mean anything. Like, all that doesn't mean anything. So when talking about our feelings and when talking about our emotions, I really like to think back on these things and when things start and when they develop. Now, when you're an infant and you're a child and you get really emotionally flared up, it's because you're hungry, it's because you're uncomfortable, it's because you have to go to the bathroom, it's because you don't feel good, it's because you're teething. Now, these things don't really develop any kind of definitions that we impose upon ourselves until we start forming an identity, which is probably about the ages of like 1.5, 2 years old. And that's when really our egos and our identities start to really kind of solidify within our consciousness. And we really kind of form a solid sense of who we are. And what happens is that we live in a dysfunctional paradigm, and that teaches us to embrace all the things that feel good and push all the things that feel bad. Now, there's a lot of things that happen when we are operating under that program. And I say program because we are literally programmed. We have a brain and it's a meat computer. And speaking of that, we are actually replicating in a lot of ways our own nervous systems with our technology. So like we are being programmed within a singular identity, out apart from others, apart from even our true nature, and we define ourselves based upon the feelings that we feel. Now, when we are growing up and we get upset, usually it's for more complex reasons. It's because we're not getting what we want. It's because we're being bullied, we're being picked on, somebody hurt us. And then we feel good at the times when we do get what we want, and when we do get things our way, and this starts at a very, very young age, and it's something that's perpetuated all up into adulthood. Now, we have feelings, okay? And I like to talk about language and I like to talk about words because this is how we kind of define our reality. It's how we keep our point of reference, and how we kind of hold everything together is through languages, through words. But from the perspective of the soul and perspective of source, those things are so limiting. It's a limitation. So when we have these feelings, we're told what they are and we're told what they mean. That's another thing. When we're young, we're not taught to think for ourselves through our governments and our educational systems, and through old styles of parenting. We're not taught to think for ourselves. We're taught what to think. We're taught how we should define the world around us. And so we're programmed in that way. We literally cannot see beyond that for a very, very long time. Now, we have these feelings that we've categorized as good and we've categorized as bad. We have these feelings we categorize as desirable. We have these feelings that we categorize as undesirable. And we always want to have the desirable feelings. And the undesirable feelings, if we have those, we impose judgments upon our identity. And over time, when we keep having these bad feelings happening to us, it forms a sense of who we are, and it's usually a very small sense of who we are, or it's a very inflated sense of who we are. Neither are really who you are. It's our conditioning, and it's how we are programmed to see ourselves. So it's all about, in a new paradigm, and in the process of awakening, it's really learning how to develop a new definition and a different relationship with your feelings, and not judging your feelings. We're also taught to judge ourselves and judge our feelings, which is something that really isolates ourselves that much more. So, what I've learned throughout my own experience, now, these are one of those things that it takes time. It takes time to cultivate, because within a healing process there's a cultivation that has to happen, and cultivation takes time, and we live on a plane of reality that involves the perception of time being within this body, and that's something that the ego has a hard time with, because it wants to have control over that. So it has this means to an end type of constructs, and reality doesn't quite align with that. So we all are having inner conflicts with ourselves, because we want to be at one point in time, but we're within this current point in time, and things aren't how we think that they should be. So it's really important for us to be really, really easy on ourselves. And what we do is, say, for instance, when you have a moment where you have a very intense emotion arise within you within that moment, the first thing that I really try to do is I try to get really, really quiet, and not quiet in the way of avoiding my feeling or trying to shut myself down, but actually I get quiet to really listen to myself. I get quiet to really feel into that emotion, to really feel into that feeling, and to try to learn how to do it without imposing a judgment upon myself. If I feel anger, I'm not going to say, well, you shouldn't feel anger and you're a bad person if you feel anger. If I feel sadness, I don't want to tell myself that you're not allowed to feel sadness, and you're a bad person if you feel sadness. And then then shame comes into into it. And it's just like a cycle that never ends and never stops. And pair that with a very isolated social construct that we have, where individualism overrides union with your brothers and sisters. It can really be a painful experience to go through, especially if you're struggling with something like anxiety and depression, and you feel like that sets you so far apart from other people that seemingly do not have that issue in the same way that you do. And I can really only speak from my own experience. I've dealt with depression and anxiety, and it really kind of put me within a cycle of shame and a lot of sadness, because I bullied myself, and I told myself, well, why can't I be like these people that seem to have their shit together so well? But the thing is that there's a lot of people who live in total abject denial of their own feelings and emotions. A lot of people, especially within the Western culture, are really using endless forms of escapism, just so they don't have to face the things within themselves that they're ashamed of, face the things within themselves that they were taught to judge, that if they were to feel through, a lot of different forms of conditioning as we were growing up, that means that they're bad. The whole thing, when you're grown, the old styles of parenting that involve corporal punishment, stop crying, or I'm going to give you something to cry about. Being called a crybaby, all these different things, and all these different very terrible and painful ways we're taught how to relate to ourselves. And it takes a lot to really kind of come up out of that. And once again, that's why I'm always going to put the message out there of connection and community, healthy connection and healthy community. And I want to take the shame out of expression. I want to take the shame out of people being able to talk about these things. I think it's time that we really, in an authentic and in a safe space, talk about these things. And there's been this epidemic going on where, people are shaming others because they're making choices based within their feelings, as if like creation didn't put feelings within our nervous systems by an accident. Your feelings are there to tell you what your needs are. And when you build a healthy relationship with your feelings, then you will understand what it is that you need and the healthy choices that need to be made in order to take care of your body, mind, and spirit. Now, if you have not noticed, and on a collective level within this society, when you have people that are not taking care of themselves, or are not tending to their needs, who are putting toxins within their bodies, who are intoxicating themselves regularly, recreationally, in order to escape and not have to face themselves. And those are individuals that don't know how to take care of themselves, and this isn't to cast blame on anybody at all. A lot of people simply do not know. We have not been taught. We were not taught to think for ourselves in this way, and we were not taught to have a healthy relationship with ourselves. And it's no one's fault, but I think that this is kind of something that we all really need to start getting in tune with and supporting each other with, and taking the shame out of having feelings. They're there for a reason. They're not to be ignored. They're not here to escape from, I understand. And over time, it's literally your nervous system processing things that have gone on in your environment. And the thing is what I learned, because I had a past where I, did drugs and I did alcohol. I quit smoking cigarettes and all those things. And what I noticed happens is during that kind of healing is that when you walk away from an addiction or a bad habit that your ego has kind of clung on to in order to escape, and in order to have some kind of gain of control, and in order to not have to face certain feelings within yourself, is that when you take that away from it, it's like taking a bottle away from a baby. Like it just wigs and spazzes out. And also on another level, all those substances that you used in order to suppress stress, anxiety, depression, and sadness, and it doesn't disappear. It stays in the cells of your body. It stays within your nervous system. So what happens is you take those substances out of the picture, and your nervous system is just releasing all of this stuff at one time. I mean, it's just like, boom, like, hello, anger, rage, depression, sadness, and all these things. However, what really happens also too is when that process of clearing happens, there's an awakening that happens within that. You start seeing things, some of the choices that you made because you've been so veiled. And you start seeing maybe some of the people that you've been keeping around yourself, some of the friends, some of the relationships, something in your environment, different things and different choices and patterns of habit that you've been having that really aren't serving you anymore. So you see that, oh my God, I've been doing this and it's been holding back my own personal progress for so long. And you did that because you stepped away from something that veiled you from your feelings, that veiled you from you getting in tune with your needs on an emotional level. So, I just wanted to share that with you guys to help you guys hopefully unpack your relationship with your feelings, and to get to know yourself on that intimate level, and it's a process for all of us, and it's not a race. You know, enlightenment, awakening, ascension, whatever you want to call it, it's not a race. We're all going through it at different variations, gradations on a spectrum, and it's beautiful. I think it's wonderful. I love it. Like, each and every day, it's like I'm crossing paths with people that are resonating with this stuff, and could just sit there and really understand what I'm talking about, and really just like, wow, you know. And it's beautiful. Like, it just like blows me away some days. It's like I feel like sometimes the universe is like fucking with me. I don't know, but I like it, whatever's going on. And like, I'm just in service to this full on, and it's all about reflecting back to each and every heart the light that's within you that you may have forgotten about through the pain that you may not realize that you were in, or you do realize that you're in. I just want to be that reflection of love that's already within you. So with that, I want to wish everyone a good evening, a good day, and take care of those hearts, okay? I love you.